Beneath a leaden sky, where the pale light of dying stars faintly recalled the ancient times of grandeur, a nightmarish landscape of ruined worlds unfolded. Across the relentless expanses of oblivion, where every stone was steeped in the blood of past battles, emerged the Third Legion, the children of the Emperor. These warriors, celebrated in legend and weathered by centuries of war, embodied the very ideal forged in the sacred crucible of the Emperor's rule. EH-1 was like a masterpiece of martial sculpture, muscles honed to perfection beneath cast armor, refined features that reflected both the cruelty of war and an unfathomable faith in a higher order. Their movements were precise and majestic, as if choreographed by time itself, while their weapons, swords, and bolters gleaming with a cold brilliance, seemed to be an extension of their very essence. It was no wonder they were called impeccable duelists. In every one of their combats, every clashing of blades, one could read a philosophy of supreme perfection and an inexorable verdict of fate. Under the command of the legendary Captain Lieutenant Valerian Pharaoh, whose very name evoked awe even among the ancient forces of chaos, the Legion advanced slowly yet inexorably across the desolated plain of a forgotten world. Here, upon the ruins of once magnificent temples and palaces, where time itself had frozen under the weight of millennia, a battle unfolded that would decide not only the outcome of the war, but also redefine the very nature of warfare as an art. Deep within the devastated city, amid the ruins where remnants of ancient columns and arches whispered tales of a bygone glory, the Legion clashed with hordes of ruthless barbarians and traitors. The enemy forces, spawned from the darkest depths of heresy and oblivion, hungered to extinguish the light remaining in the hearts of the Emperor's warriors. Under the roar of shattered city walls, where the echo of fallen souls resonated in every stone, the struggle began, a confrontation as brutal as Judgment Day itself. At the very forefront of this battle, amid swirling flames and choking dust, stood one paragon of the Legion's perfection, Marquis Liberius. His movements were as graceful as they were lethal. He parried enemy attacks with effortless finesse, and his fiery gaze offered no quarter. Each time his sword, forged in the flame of resolute determination and bathed in sacred blood, sliced through the air, it seemed as if the very universe held its breath. He was not merely a warrior. He was the living embodiment of a doctrine where beauty and war merged into one, and every movement became a poem of death and redemption. In that ominous hour of destiny, when light and darkness battled for dominion, fate had prepared something extraordinary within the ruins of an ancient temple, nearly forgotten by the gods. Beneath high vaults where the remnants of bas-reliefs recounted the history of long-lost eras, two warriors met, echoes of ancient myth. One, the pure son of the Third Legion, an embodiment of order, beauty, and strength. The other, a combatant defiled by the spawn of chaos, whose soul had sunk into the abyss of madness and ruin. The first bore a name that had become legendary among those who still knew the price of true perfection. His armor, polished to a mirror shine, reflected both the horrors and the grandeur of the world around him. And his gaze, cold and penetrating like the very warden of fate, seemed to pierce the essence of his foe. The other appeared as a shadow, torn from the darkest nightmares. His form merged with the gloom, and his eyes burned with hatred and despair. In that single moment when their gazes locked, time itself appeared to stand still, and in that instant, the entire tragedy of a world was revealed, where every sword stroke was like a final verdict. The duel began quietly, almost imperceptibly, as if the universe itself paused to witness this ancient ritual. Blades met in the air, sparks flew, and in the clashing of metal resounded not merely the ring of steel, but the voices of 1,000 fallen souls, offering their lives in the name of a higher ideal. Marquis Liberius, guardian of imperial honor, struck with precision and relentless determination. Every attack was inscribed with nobility and the tragic weight of fate. His opponent answered with a fury born of chaos, a wild, unbridled rage in which every second was filled with merciless brutality and bloodshed devoid of measure or order. Within the hall that had once echoed with hymns of glory, and now only the whispers of death prevailed, blow after blow rewrote the destinies of both warriors. Each time their swords intersected, visions of ancient battles burst forth, reminding all that war was not merely a struggle for life, but also for the soul. And then, when it seemed that the duel had reached its zenith, when both combatants teetered on the brink of exhaustion, a deeper light flashed in their eyes, a mutual understanding of the inescapable sacrifice, a choice between life and death, between faith and unbelief. Liberius recalled the words of his mentor, resonating in his mind like echoes of ancient prophecy. True perfection is born in the crucible of battle, when every drop of blood is offered as a sacrifice to a greater cause. With that thought, he gathered his remaining strength and executed a movement so swift and resolute that time itself appeared to slow. His blade, flaring in a burst of lightning speed, shimmered in the dying light, and every swing became the final verse of a poem written in blood and steel. Meanwhile, his foe, engulfed in the maelstrom of madness, released his last vestiges of hatred. His movements grew abrupt, chaotic, as if his soul had long been severed from his body. Yet even in that wild frenzy, there lingered a trace of poignant sorrow, a lament for what once was great, but now lay irretrievably lost. In their clash, amid the clamor of steel and the cries of the fallen, was waged not merely a fight for survival, but a duel for the fate of two worlds, the world of order and that of chaos, the world of beauty and horror. When at last the blades met for a final decisive strike, the entire universe seemed to hold its breath. In that moment, all the pain, every loss, every suffering endured through endless battles found expression in the shower of sparks that danced around them. As Marquis Liberius gazed into the unfathomable eyes of his adversary, he perceived not only malice but also a glimmer of the lost humanity. And this realization imbued him with strength hitherto unknown. He understood that perfection was not solely in the gleam of steel and the choreography of combat, but in the capacity to forgive even in the deepest darkness. With a thunderous, world-shaking blow that echoed like the lament of vanquished worlds, his strike pierced his enemy's armor, a ray of light cleaving the darkness. Yet, in that very instant, his opponent, as if summoning his final bastion of despair, countered with a blow of equal ferocity, and their swords clashed with such force that the entire wasteland trembled with the vibrations of this eternal drama. In that collision, there were not only the sounds of clashing metal, but also the anguished cries of countless dead, bearing witness to the inexorable cost of war. Moments, stretched into an eternity, gave way to a relentless succession of attacks and parries, each leaving an indelible mark on the hearts and souls of those who fought. For some, the battle became a ritual of purification. For others, it was the final trial of their spirit. Liberius felt that with every drop of spilled blood, his soul was simultaneously being cleansed and burdened with the weight of loss. As if the Emperor himself spoke through this mortal dance. His movements were both precise and mechanical, as though the very nature of war whispered ancient secrets into his ear, guiding him to fight with an unyielding resolve and cold calculation. Thus the duel continued, a contest where every second was imbued with tragedy and philosophy, where the fates of two warriors intertwined into a tapestry inseparable from that of a galaxy ravaged by endless strife. Here, amid the ruins of an ancient temple and the echoes of bygone eras, a truth began to emerge. The true perfection is not born solely in flawless victory, but in the very struggle, the measured stroke of a blade, the cadence of each parry that reflects the intricate and ambiguous nature of existence. And when, just as it seemed, nothing could shatter that eternal moment, the silence was rent by a sound that sent shivers down the spine. A final, decisive blow that would change the fate not only of these two warriors, but of an entire universe, weary from ceaseless wars and suffering. The sweeping arc of Liberius's sword, so precise and relentless, became the symbol of his unwavering faith in the light for which he fought, while his foe, in his final tragic moment, found in his act a semblance of redemption so elusive in the realm of chaos. As sparks flew in the gloom of the ruined temple, it became clear that this duel was no mere clash of two warriors. It was a ritual in which love and hate, faith and despair, order and chaos converged. In every strike and parry was inscribed the history of entire epochs, and one warrior's triumph spelled the downfall of a world bereft of hope.